What I have right here is a setup for a Detroit diesel DD15 engine. And I'm going to show you how OTR Diagnostics is going to be a helpful diagnostic tool for you to be able to read your fault codes, view live data parameters. You'll be able to send commands just like you would as if you were taking your truck into a Freightliner or a Western Star dealer to look up your truck. So once you log in, you'll be able to kind of go into you'll select your adapter. Once you select your adapter, you're going to go directly into the connecting to your vehicle, which is going to go in, and once you land on the dashboard, you'll be able to see all your fault codes. You'll be able to get practically a good overview of all the live data parameters as well as all the commands that are available. So pretty easy. I'll kind of walk through every page. At the top, you'll see 38 active fault codes. Obviously, we're not connected to a real truck. We're just connected here. So it's going to have more active fault codes. You got live data parameters, and we're monitoring 6 parameters at the moment on the dashboard. You'll see your commands where you can click from the dashboard, hot commands that are very common in OTR Diagnostics. You'll also get access to a vehicle health report, which is going to give you a very detailed overview of everything that's going on with your truck. You'll be able to see all the modules on your truck. You'll be able to see all the live data parameters. You'll be able to track your total engine hours. You'll be able to track your mileage. You'll be able to track all your fault codes. Super helpful report. You'll track the history. We capture everything you do in OTR Diagnostics. So even if you reset your fault codes, all that's stored in the cloud. So you'll always have access to that so you can reference that later, because a lot of times you need to have that data so that way you can, if you reset your fault codes and that fault code comes back, you need to know that information, especially if you're taking your truck into the shop. So that's super helpful to have. Then we just have knowledge base in there for you to know more information about blogs that we have, as well as pairing. If you're interested in the pairing, if you have any troubles pairing, or we walk you through the pairing walkthrough in that regard. First thing I'm just going to go over is probably the most used area is the fault codes, because when you have a check engine light that comes on your truck, you'll see your check engine light come on, your stop light potentially, or MIL light, your check light come on. And what happens is sometimes even on your truck, your DEF light starts flashing, or on a Freightliner, you'll see kind of like your gauge, instead of it being like 4 for your DEF level, you'll see that start blinking and being red, or with a yellow light there. So a lot of times you'll probably have an after treatment problem is when you start seeing stuff happen with your DEF gauge. If you run out of DEF fluid, if you start having knock sensor fault codes, you'll start to have issues with your DEF gauges, and obviously your truck's going to start beeping at you and start yelling at you, telling you that you have a problem. And this is where you need a diagnostic tool to kind of understand what the fault codes are, understand the live data parameters, and then understand exactly like how to address it. If you reset the fault codes and the fault codes don't disappear, well, you got a problem and you need to take action. So you can potentially do a regen, or you can do different types of regen depending on what the issue is with your truck. And we're going to go over that right now. So here we got some fault codes, and we have a lot of fault codes because obviously we're not connected to anything. So you'll be able to see the SPN number, the FMI number, and then also which module is reporting that fault code. And so here you got kind of like, you got your engine, then you got your CPC controller with the fault codes, and then you'll eventually see you got your after treatment system, so it's exhaust emission controller. So you got emission, and then the fault code I clicked on, ironically, is your SCR outlet knock sensor. So this module right here, it's connected to all your after treatment sensors, and this is where if you have a problem with your knock sensor, it's coming from this module, because this module is reporting all that data, making sure it's good before it sends it to the entire system. But for this, I just want to go over this video of what this is. So it's going to go over an overview, troubleshooting, description, repair procedure, and a lot of this is technical jargon. So I would say one of the most useful things that I would do is just click explain this fault code with OTR Assist, and this is where we dive deeper into this fault code with full context of your vehicle. So we have full context because we're putting all that information right inside OTR Assist of your year, make, model, and engine, your component, which module it is, and then we're feeding that into OTR Assist, and then it's giving you a good explanation of what to do, how to do it. Is this going to cause a derate? Is this urgent? What would you address? How would you address it? And then kind of answer any questions that you may have, especially right within. It's like almost like I would say like a diesel level technician, but powered with more data to help us understand what's going on. So it's not necessarily going to replace a diesel technician, right? Because it's just providing a good overview so that way you can educate yourself to make a good decision on what the issue is. If you got to replace a sensor, or if you got to take this to a shop to have them replace it, because sometimes it might require more diagnostics. It's not just a simple replace a sensor. It could be a harness, could be the fact that you need to do more diagnostics on it. So it's just going to give you a good overview of what to do and what steps to take. And this is where I think it's going to be super helpful for you, especially as you kind of understand what the issue is and diving deeper with different fault codes that are on your truck. Now, OTR Assist will cover transmission fault codes, ABS fault codes. It would cover, let's say you have a lane assist. So we use OTR Assist on every single fault code, and we give you availability right inside OTR Diagnostics. And this is also included when you purchase OTR Diagnostics. It's also included so that way you can have as many search ups as you want, so you don't have to worry about that not working. And right now, just loaded up the fault code SA61 SPM 3226 FMI 13, which obviously the module is the ACM, and that means that the after treatment controller isn't receiving a usable signal from the outlet NOx sensor downstream of the SCR. In Detroit's literature, this is the selective catalyst reduction outlet NOx sensor signal not available. And so here the MIL, which is the malfunction indicator light, will illuminate for this fault code. If this fault code only appeared during a high idle parked region, then when inactive, it may be considered a one-off. Clear it, monitor. If it returns or is active now, follow the checks below. So, like I said, very easy to understand what the issue is, what this affects in symptoms. The system can't verify NOx reduction across the SCR, so some emission routines may not run or complete. Obviously, we don't have it connected, so there's a reason why. Most common causes: outlet NOx sensor failure. The sensor has its own small control module. Connector or pin issues at the outlet NOx sensor: bent, spread, corroded pins or moisture. Power ground issues to the sensors, low supply voltage, harness damage between the sensor and ACM, or what's rare is an internal ACM fault or CAN communication issue, which means that this module is bad. So what I've seen a lot when you're dealing with after treatment issues, and let's say you've taken your truck to a shop, let's say they replace the sensor, but that fault code still appears. Well, basically what I've seen in the past is sometimes when people poke wires to check for voltage, sometimes those wires become brittle because that area where they poked to check for voltage becomes corroded. And over time, especially when you're driving the truck over the road, it's gonna get corroded and it's gonna practically break those wires apart. And I've seen that a lot when a lot of people are checking for voltage. They don't use the proper equipment and they cause more issues than they actually solve the problem. So just paying it to, just watching, looking at wires, see if there's anything green when you're looking at wires or blue. It will kind of give you a sense that there's an issue with corrosion. But in this case, obviously we don't have the NOx sensor connected, so it makes complete sense that this fault code's active. Quick checks that you can do. And then it kind of gives you, like I said, really helpful things. It tells you if you have a multimeter where to check, which pins to check on your ACM. So it says pin 42, pin 4, ACM, pin 43. So practically it's giving you exactly where to check and what pin numbers to use on your check for voltage, check for ohms, to see exactly what the ohms should be. It says the internal resistor between pins 40 and 40 is not 50 to 70. The ACM needs to be replaced. So it's checking your entire system here, what to do inside OTR Diagnostics. You can reset the fault codes, and then you could also use another command inside OTR Diagnostics called Force SCR Efficiency Regen to verify the SCR performance and that both NOx sensors are reading normally again. If the app won't start this test, the outlet NOx signal is still missing or unstable, so recheck your work. So clearly, it's telling you exactly which commands to use inside OTR Diagnostics as well with OTR Assist. Here, it's going to tell you more references for accuracy. And what's cool about OTR Diagnostics is we built this right inside where you're able to also reference a manual. So you click on reference manual, be able to see the troubleshooting manual right inside OTR Diagnostics. So this is over 2,500 pages but what you'll see inside of it is you'll be able to go in and be able to search your fault codes, you'll be able to search your pinouts, you'll be able to search everything about your truck right inside OTR Diagnostics, and this information is built right inside OTR Diagnostics, so you'll be able to get more helpful information. And when you ask questions right now, you'll be able to see the response with the entire context of your vehicle. So this is kind of what I would say a game changer for not just diagnostics, but really helping you understand what the issue is on your truck, so that way you can figure out, it's like, hey, can I handle this issue, or this probably needs to go to the dealership because looks a little too complicated. So you'll be able to make a better judgment on what's going on with your vehicle, so that way you're in control. So you're able to print this fault code, you're able to get a lot of details in regards to it. So I just kind of did a complete overview of the fault codes, but also with the fault codes, I'm just going to go into commands, because here's where we're going to go through the different sections of the commands. You got reset fault codes, where you're going to reset the fault codes on the entire truck. Now, this is the same command that if you were to hook up to using a laptop with Detroit Diesel Diagnostics software, this is the same commands that we send with OTR Diagnostics that the dealer would do. So it's the same. We're resetting every single module that's on your truck that's built specifically for a Detroit Diesel or Freightliner or Western Star. Even if you have a Cummins in it, we do support that, where we set every single module on your truck when you hit that command. Now, reset after treatment, these here are very specific to Detroit Diesel. So when we're talking as if these are the commands that you would use if you're using an OEM level diagnostic tool, just like Detroit Diagnostic Link software. So you got reset ash accumulator and the DPF zone levels. And then if you click reset ash level, it goes in there with the specific fault codes that you would have in order for this to do the reset. And then here on the next page, we have reset SCR accumulator. So here it's again resetting the SCR system after you replace it for the context of resetting the values. What's also nice about OTR Diagnostics is we give you the capabilities for two different types of regens on your Detroit. You got a forced DPF regen, which is a typical forced regen that you would use a scan tool for, which is a great thing to do, especially if you're replacing a DPF or have DPF problems, or if you idle your truck for a very long time, it might ask you to do a regen, and you can only do it if you're using a diagnostic tool such as OTR Diagnostics. And then you also give you the capabilities to do what's called a forced SCR efficiency regen. Now, this efficiency regen is not in any diagnostic tool. It's not very common to put this in a lot of different diagnostic tools, but we gave you this power because there are specific fault codes. And if you look at the fault code list, there's a lot of fault codes that would require you to do this regen in order for you to clear fault codes. The most common fault codes that I see where you need to do this regen is the SPN 521049 FMI31, 521050 FMI31, and then SPN 521052 FMI31. And on Detroit diesels, this is only for Detroit diesels, you have to do this specific regen in order for you to clear these fault codes. But the procedure to do this regen is very specific. You have to force the DPF regen. Then after that completes, you would have to do a forced SCR regen right after. And sometimes it even takes 2 times for it to clear those other fault codes, because what it's doing is it's checking your NOx sensor efficiency in order for it to be at a level where it clears out these fault codes. And so even if you replace the parts or you fix your truck, these fault codes won't clear unless you do a forced DPF regen and then a forced SCR regen, the SCR efficiency regen. So when you buy a diagnostic tool, you want to make sure they have the right capabilities, because a lot of times what we've seen is a lot of these problems come up and you just need to have the right things inside the diagnostic software for you to have access, so that way once you do a regen, you're able to fix your truck yourself without necessarily taking it to anyone just for them to do the regen. And so what's cool about that is we give you that capability right inside of OTR Diagnostics. And so next, I'm going to show you the live data of what you get inside of OTR Diagnostics. Now, this is kind of a limited list because we're not connected to all the modules that we're talking to grab our live data, but it's going to give you a good overview of what you get when you're connected to the setup. So you got your after treatment fuel rate, barometric pressure, you got battery voltage, your DPF pressure, DPF intake temp, your DPF intake temp, your second sensor, you got your DPF intake pressure, your outlet pressure, you got your engine torque, you got EGR mass airflow rate, your EGR valve position, you got your engine charge air cooler outlet temperature, your engine coolant level, you got your engine coolant pump outlet temperature, you got your engine coolant temperature, and then you got some more exhaust pressure, you got your engine fuel economy, you got injector meeting rail pressure, you got engine fuel rate, your engine intake manifold pressure, which is also your boost pressure, your engine intake temperature, your engine load, engine speed, engine throttle actuator control command, your engine total idle fuel used, the time that you idled your truck, you got engine total idle hours, you got engine turbo intake pressure, you got intake temperature on your turbo, you got turbo speed, engine exhaust temp 1, your fan speed, your intake air mass sensor, and the SCR outlet knock sensor as well. So we cover a lot on this, and obviously as OTR Diagnostics, we're always expanding our live data list, so there's definitely more coming soon. But what I would say with OTR Diagnostics, we give you a lot of parameters so that way you're able to track what's going on with your truck and you're able to make an assessment, especially like it's good to monitor certain parameters, especially while driving the truck, to make sure that you can relay that information. So say, hey, my truck is low on power. Well, what does that mean when you're trying to communicate that to a shop? Well, what is that? So they're going to have to replicate what you're feeling and what you're seeing with your truck. So if you give that shop all the fault codes and then you're saying, hey, normally when my truck's running good, I'm at 30 PSI of boost. Right now it's at 15 and I got these 3 fault codes on. Or I'm at 15 PSI and I have no fault codes. So I would say, like, the more information you have as you're diagnosing a truck, the better you're off at figuring out what's going on and resolving the issues at the core. If you just say to a shop, or you're trying to diagnose this yourself and you're just saying, I'm trying to, I got my truck just doesn't feel like it's pulling right, or I can't go past 55 miles an hour, or I'm stuck at 5 miles an hour. Well, that's a symptom to a problem that you have to address. So you got to fix the root cause of the problem, and you need a diagnostic tool for that. You can't just start changing parts on your truck without really understanding what it is that is wrong. So that's why I highly recommend you get a diagnostic tool that's built for your vehicle, that's tested, that gives you the right capabilities so that way you can take full ownership of your truck. And I'm just going to go over history. When the history tab, you'll be able to see all the history of every single fault code and command that you did. So if you said you want to reset commands or you did SCR regen, we track the time of how long a regen took, how often you did it, as well as you'll be able to see all your fault codes as well during that session. So we practically store all your data in the cloud, which is nice, and not a lot of diagnostic tools do that, because it's, the way we do it is we always want your history of what you did in the vehicle, so that way if you take your truck into a shop or you want to look back, if you got that fault code like last year, then you got it back this year during this time period, you're able to see what's going on, and you're able to chase down ghost codes a lot easier by knowing that every time you hook up OTR Diagnostics, we're storing everything that you do inside the cloud for reference later. So we just went over fault codes, we went over live data, we went over commands, what you get inside of OTR Diagnostic with commands. We went over the vehicle health report, where you can click that generate health report inside OTR Diagnostics, and you'll be able to see exactly everything in there. So I'm just going to click it again, generate report, and you'll be able to see all the different things that you get in there. Every single fault code that's inside there is generated with the report. We went over the history, we went over the knowledge base that you get access to. And so we just kind of, if you ever have any questions in regards to even the settings or logging out or anything, you can click the OTR logo at the top, and then you'll be able to see your account details. You'll be able to see your vehicle information. You'll be able to see your VIN number, your displacement, and everything else there. You'll be able to get access to our support, our settings. You'll be able to access our default adapter. You can set a default adapter. You can change it dark theme, light theme. You'll be able to change it in metric or standard, and then you'll be able to say auto lock, stay on, or system default, and then display dialog after app updates. So we just give you some more settings in the settings area. Now we just kind of gave you a full overview of how OTR Diagnostics is going to work on a Detroit diesel setup. This works on 2008 all the way past 2026 in this current video, where we have capabilities up to 2026 right now built into OTR Diagnostics. Now, you can get access to all this today by downloading OTR Diagnostics and going on OTR Performance website and purchasing OTR Diagnostics. Now, we just went over everything you need to know on how OTR Diagnostics is going to work on a Detroit diesel engine. So I gave you a full overview so that way you can make the right purchase decision to help you diagnose your truck and be able to have full context of what's going on. So you can visit otrperformance.com, or you can give us a call at 586-799-4375 for more information. Thanks for watching.